No, he said he's got, oh, he said he's got. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Monday, October 16th, 2023, People Board of Education meeting. My name is Kim Hopkins, Board President. The first item on our agenda is a call to order and call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. The next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
Mark Sarver move to approve the agenda as presented.
Morris, I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions or refusals? And that motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the pledge of allegiance. The board will fire. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Please be seated. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the September 18th, 2023 board meeting. Hopefully everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes. If there's no changes that need to occur there, and I have a motion to approve them.
Darren Savage, I'm the director of the minute from the, my 18 morning.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. If there is no further discussion on that, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or refusals? And that motion carries. The next item on our agenda is number 5, public participation. We do not have any public participation from this evening. Thank you. Ms. Mack, we do not have any. The next item on our agenda is item 6, city reports and presentations. And we do have some awards and we have a presentation on. Do you want
We'll start with our awards. We have 3 people we're recognizing from September as our best at the nest. Welcome. And if you recall, this was a new initiative to recognize staff members across the district. Apart from outside of teacher of the year or support professional of the year, or behavioral health specialist of the year. We just wanted to make it a more regular occurrence. So each month we will recognize the best at the nest from the previous month. And so we'll have 3 people from September. The first one was Karen Diaz Rios, our teacher of the year. Do not see her here this evening. We also have Cheryl Thibodeau, who's from the transportation group, and remind me which schools she drives for. Do you know, Mr.? Okay, there you go. Oh, right, there we go. Yeah, context clues. Thank you. Right, and then we have Thornton Parker, who is our crossing guard extraordinaire. Come on up. I waved again this morning. Did you see me this morning? You're gonna be looking for me.
You informed me.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
That is all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a picture with us.
Back up, we just want to turn around there and join the bay. Mom.
Thank you so much.
Good job. Congrats.
The inaugural September group of Best of the Nest. And so if you check out on social media, we already have our October nominees rolling in. So another round of applause. Thank you.
This is such a great idea.
Yep. I think, yep.
No, go ahead.
So I was gonna mention the nominee from this week, but we'll get to them next week. Oh, all right.
So the next item is superintendent's communications.
Yes, it's been an exciting month. Not only did we have homecoming and won our football game, but we also had unit count, which was very successfully completed by our principals and staff members. As you guys know, it takes a lot of attention to detail there, attendance records, making sure that we are tracking kids down. We talk about bottoms and seats and that they have to be in a seat for at least one of those days for us to count them. So I think we ended at 3,498. There we go. So we are back to kind of pre-pandemic numbers in terms of our total enrollment. We are seeing a decrease in the number of students with disabilities. However, the students that are being identified are more, they're more the intensive complex categories. So lower numbers, but actually increased funding on that side. Because the students that are being identified are the ones that really truly need those additional services. So that was unit count. And then more recently today, I had the opportunity to visit Del Tech in Georgetown. Had lunch with Bobby Barron, who's the program director, and her team. And then got to tour 5 different technical areas. And of those 5 technical areas, 4 of the people I spoke with were Seaford High School graduates, which I was always like, Janelle, you set me up on this one. She's like, no, I honestly didn't even know. So that was really exciting. We have directors meeting tomorrow, and I can't wait to come back to the leadership team here and talk about what additional partnerships we might have with Del Tech. So it was really a great day.
Awesome. The next item is board communication, and I know, Mr. Wright, you had just a little brief thing you want to say to us.
Yes, last week we had our inaugural DSBA legislative committee meeting of the school year. Not a whole lot went on, honestly, it's just a meet and greet, and then a review of some of the legislation that we went over from like the last, the first half of this General Assembly. We did update our legislative priorities just a little bit, just take some wording around, but for the most part, everything's the same. We want to make sure we align with the chiefs. Making sure that, our priorities are the same, that we're asking for the same things, and that our positions are the same as well, so that we can be all one unified voice for our students.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Wright. And I just wanted to make mention, I know that when I met with Dr. Lee, we were talking about NSBA, the National School. And as many of you know, that have been on the board for a while, and Mr. Armour, in the spring, every year they have their annual conference for board members nationally. So they come from across the United States if they are a part of the National School Board Association. So not every school board is affiliated, or not every state. So next year will be April 2024, and it will be held in New Orleans. So usually we do the early bird so that we can get the cheaper rate. So if there's an interest, please, when you start seeing emails, let us know, let Ms. Mass know.
April 5 through 8. So the 5th, the Friday, is our week of spring break. There's like the opening session on that Friday afternoon. There's concurrent sessions on Saturday and Sunday, and then the closing session on Monday.
And Mr. Wright, I'm not sure, being that you're a representative, if Delaware, for the delegate assembly part go, if you would represent us if need be.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Does any other board member have something?
Yes, I just wanted to let the board know that Mr. Benson and I participated in a webinar just last week. It was called School Board Education 101, a local organization, actually a national organization, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, invited school boards from across the county to participate. Mr. Benson and I were the only two to respond. We represented Seaford very well. And it'll be broadcast through social media everywhere. But I think that they were not surprised, but they were very pleased with the way that we talked about how we work collaboratively as a team, unlike some districts who there's infighting and things of that nature. So Seaford, once again, represented on a national level, so we'll be sharing that information out.
Thank you.
Thank you, for representing us. Thank you, Mr. Benson. Next item on our agenda is beginning of the year, data review presentation, and we have Mr. Dole for that.
And Dr. Dissel. Yep.
As we want to do a short presentation, for all of you, just on some early data, this year, just so you kind of see where we are, through the first 6 weeks of school. So as you can see, as of October 4th, our discipline numbers, in terms of referrals, is tracking very well. Last year at the same time in the whole district, 327 discipline referrals, and this year, through the same first 6 weeks, only 157. And as of October 4th, only 9 students have been suspended from school OSS, and we've only had 28 so far that have been in in-school suspension across the whole district. And of those referrals, 74 is the biggest number for inappropriate behavior. And I just put a little note on there, more mental health services and people in our buildings, we think has made a big difference for our students. And then the work with the code of conduct, I think with our principals has also been beneficial. So at this point, discipline numbers have been going very well. And then for attendance, through the first 6 weeks of school, I'm very excited about this one. My goal for the year is to try to come up to 95, but overall for our entire district, we have a 94% attendance rate. Our elementary schools, every one of them is above 95% right now. Fred Douglas, when we met with her last week, I think they're at 96.7%, which is phenomenal. When you look at it, especially post COVID. Last week of school, we had a 95% attendance rate, so 95% of our kids were here each day. And then every subgroup of our students is above 93 right now. And even more impressive, 83% of our students have missed 2 or less days of school. So our kids right now are in our buildings, in our seats, which to us means they're learning more, which we're very excited about. And just a couple of things to kind of attribute this to. Jean Briggs, who all of you know is our McKinney liaison, she has a bigger staff this year working with some family interventionists. They've done over 200 home visits, just to talk to some parents, see what's going on, push out, get them resources, get them, you know what I mean, see what's happening. My office, we've had monthly meetings with administrators to look at individual students. So we're going through and looking at kids who are not there and coming up with a plan to try to help parents figure out where they were. We have positive messaging on social media from Mrs. Brent going out, and schools are also highlighting and pushing. And we have daily messages that are now going out for students who are absent. Concerns, we still have them, just like it's last year was the same. We have 180 families categorized as homeless. So it's just trying to work with them and figure out a better way they can get them to school every day. Especially if they might be changing addresses. And then lack of substitute bus drivers. I know, I think Dr. D shared with you at one point that we had a school bus that we couldn't get on the road for 3 days because we just didn't have a driver for it. So it's working with those families too, and making sure that those days are not counting against the kids because it's not their fault that they can't be in there.
What do we do when we can't get to the students? Do we do like a virtual?
Yeah, I mean, we try to get them work to them as much as we can. We don't have any virtual in a sense, but with especially with one high school using Schoology,
Yeah.
get work to them so they can keep doing it.
Yeah.
And even family trips we did this year, as long as parents tell us beforehand, we try to get them and push that they're getting work while they're on that family trip. And then if they turn it in, we can change their attendance because technically they didn't work. Those things have helped us as well.
Cool.
I also with the suspended children, kids, that do we send work home with them? Or?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yeah, all of them get work at home as well.
Thank you.
Gary, before you go, how much of this, and I guess this is a question for Kristen also, maybe for you. These are the things that people need to know. How is this information being shared? Is it going to be in social media? Is it going to be?
Yes. Yeah, but she's pushed out a few things about.
I know I've seen the attendance, but I mean like these numbers about how good our attendance is.
Excuse me.
And you know, the 200 home visits is amazing.
Yeah.
And I know visiting teachers across the county are not doing that.
I would agree with that.
I know what they're not.
But it's part of, right. I know some parents probably do get frustrated with it at some points, but for us, we like it because it puts us in there for a little bit, but it also shows thoughts, and then we really are trying to do extra things to.
It's a good structure.
That needs to be publicized.
Yes, okay.
Throw it out there.
Good job.
We'll do that.
Very good.
Right, so I'm gonna share some beginning of the year academic data. So we pulled both of the, we decided to use the transitional years. So kindergarten, third grade, sixth grade, and look at how we're doing there. So this is beginning of the year kindergarten DIBELS reading data. You can see green is meeting benchmark. Yellow is slightly below and the red is below. So we do have about 72% of our students who are coming to us not quite kindergarten ready. So in collaboration with Mrs. Parsons and Ms. Schneider, Mr. Zoll and I are trying to think of some outreach things that we can do with the community prior to bringing in our 5-year-olds into kindergarten each year. So to kind of jumpstart that for us. Yep, but then you can see by third grade, we make a lot of growth, right? That red has gone down considerably, the green has gone up. We've made a lot of growth there. And then I wanted to look at the comparison between 5th grade STAR reading because the assessment changes. So kindergarten does DIBELS, kindergarten first and second grade do DIBELS. And then we switch over into STAR. 5th grade STAR reading, this is where our current 6th graders, so students who were enrolled with us this year, were last year in the spring. So you can see there's a lot more of the green on there, a lot less of the red. So we've been making some growth. Then when we look at the beginning of the year, 6th grade, the red grows again and we get to 60%. Now we know that's not learning loss. We didn't lose that much from May when they did the spring test until the beginning of 6th grade. So that's a problem of practice for us to really think through what is happening between the end of 5th grade and the beginning of 6th grade and how can we help with that transition. And it may be something as simple as the testing environment, the expectations that are set up in the classroom for it. So we're going to be doing some diving into that with Mr. Cave and the staff at Seaford Middle School. But you can,
Could that, just a thought, I'm thinking. How far we've been back, but when we started bringing the kids over to 6th grade in the middle school, how long has that been? We've been doing that now, a while. I know when I was in school, we didn't come to middle school until 7th grade, and I didn't know if that's transition to kids. You know, from 5th grade to 6th grade, and all of a sudden you're in high school more or less,
right.
because then, so your maturity all of a sudden jumps up a lot. Thinking about all the things that we've been reading again. I don't know.
So that's something that the principals are gonna be working on, the 5th grade, Mrs. Lovely and Ms. Phillips, as well as Mr. Cave. So then you can see, if you go back to 6th grade, our middle school isn't losing, right? We're not losing ground. They just don't gain back what they kind of lost in that transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. So one of the things that we're doing is we've shifted our focus of our learning labs to 6th grade. So Ms. Waters and Ms. Boyce O'Brien are going to be working strategically with the 6th grade teachers because that's where we first see that gap. So they're going to be strategically working there so that we can hopefully build up the other grade levels there if we can get that good transition.
Is there a difference in the test? Because every year it seems like it's the same thing.
So this is STAR, so it is adaptive to students' growth, so it goes where the students go. But it does give kind of a percentile rank for where students are, and they use that scale score and that percentile rank to mark them in these categories. So, so it's the same type of test, it's the STAR benchmark assessment, and that's why we use it at the beginning of the year to give us kind of this baseline data. If we didn't give the STAR assessment, then we wouldn't really know, other than our internal district assessments prior to Smarter Balanced. So that's why we do the STAR assessment in the spring,
No, I
or sorry, in the fall.
just trying to figure out how we always have that dip. Where we're achieving really well in the elementaries, and then as soon as they get to the middle school, there's a dip, and it's like, trying to understand what's happening.
Yep, that's our problem with practice that we're gonna be focusing on this year, I think, collectively as an administrative team. Those are the 2 points, I think, coming into kindergarten. If we can target some things there, and then that transition from 5th grade to 6th grade, hopefully that will help us in our.
Dr. Jeanette, one quick question, is STAR, how closely aligned is STAR to bookworms?
So STAR is based off of, it's a norm reference test, so it's not gonna be, Bookworms is, more holistic, so it doesn't target individual standards in isolation. So, I think the biggest thing on STAR is the vocabulary and then the comprehension piece. So, those are the 2 things that STAR really targets.
So do you think that STAR is still the best benchmark to use?
I'm gonna be honest, it's one of the things we're gonna be looking at, however, we do need to have a norm reference benchmark assessment, right? So we can look at which ones, those would be, certainly, same thing with IM. When we went to IM, is that the best assessment? So that's something that we're gonna be looking at across the course of the year.
And STAR is just standalone, there isn't, like, it doesn't generate a learning path of skills for the student to work on before they test again, it's just standalone.
Well, it can give teachers a report of standards that they need to work on. Probably need to do some additional professional development on that for teachers. I think teachers who have been here for a while had that initial training and know how to pull those reports and use that in their small group. I think newer teachers probably need that training, and that's something we're looking at.
Thank you.
Dr. Jeanette, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the fall, they had more test takers than they had in the spring. Are you able to pull the data, even though you can't exclude the,
No.
actually?
No, because my very first thought was, is it choice kids? Is it kids who left and went to choice? Is that why? But it won't let me pull that way. It'll only pull students that are currently enrolled in our system. So I can't, unless, which I can assure you I will be doing this spring, I take a snapshot of what their scores are in the spring and just save it on my document.
Okay.
So by next fall, you'll have that data. At this point, I don't.
Got you. Okay. 'Cause I'm
Okay.
thinking it's kind of skewed because are they the same people?
Right.
So where are we
So
at?
we did lose some choice, moving, mobility, all of that kind of stuff. So that's why I went back to just who can I pull and how were they last spring? Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, don't mess with me. Go to, all right, so 3rd grade STAR math, we don't do STAR in kindergarten, so we don't have that data. We do in, starting in 1st grade, we start STAR math. This is our 3rd grade, STAR math data. And again, I still have some questions about, is STAR the best benchmark for us at this point in time? So we did the same thing, the 5th grade math spring data, look at all that green, tiny little bit of red. And then when we get to Yeah, that same thing at middle school.
And Dr. Jeanette,
It makes-
we skipped, grade 8.
Oh, we did skip grade 8, didn't we? I'm sorry. So you can see we maintained, so again, we didn't lose ground in middle school. It's not like scores got worse, they just kind of stayed the same in 8th grade from 6th grade. Sorry. Can you go to math? There's the spring. And then there's that transition again from the 5th grade math to 6th grade. And then if you look at 8th grade, 8th grade had a bunch of students who tested late, and we had some problems syncing their scores. So Marion's working on that, so as soon as I can pull an updated triangle, I can get that information to you. But I was waiting for her to work on the sync there.
That like 5th to 8th grade phenomenon, that 5th to 6th grade, are we seeing that across the state as well?
Yeah, it's nationwide. It's nationwide.
So we solved this.
Right. Heard everything.
I just wanted to make sure it's, on the record.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It is a nationwide trend. All right, so we'll be doing updated, we do this benchmarking 3 times a year, so beginning, middle, and end of the year. As I said, our next steps, we revised the learning labs at the middle school to really focus on 6th grade. That came out of conversations with their specialists and instructional coaches there. All of our teachers are administering district-based interims, we call them DBIs. Analyzing those student errors and misconceptions, and then reteaching skills and standards based off of that as appropriate. The high school is administering a practice SAT test to students through Khan Academy, and they're using that information and data in their advisory program to strategically target students and what they need through that.
2 quick questions for teacher goal setting. Is this the data that they're using?
So it depends on the grade level. The K2 schools, because they don't have Smarter Balance, they do use STAR and DIBELS.
Okay.
3 through 5 are using Smarter Balance and STAR and the combination of the 2. And then the middle school is using Smarter Balance.
And DIBELS to STAR. Alignment correlation. So
So
DIBELS is fluency.
yes.
Is
A lot of it is the oral reading fluency beginning at mid-year 1st grade. So, but the thought is once they're fluent readers, then they can read text that they're not familiar with and comprehend that text. So that's the thought behind STAR. And we'll go from there.
right.
Thank you.
Jeff, just so you were talking about that gap, usually like from K to 5, 4, 5, you're learning how to read effectively. When you make that switch to middle school, you're reading it to tomorrow.
Okay.
So it's a different type of reading, and that's a lot of times where you see that gap, because it's not just a story about a dog.
Right.
It's this informational piece of text, and how can I learn from that? So making that switch is hard. It's a lot of times hard to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's what I was trying to get to see.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeanette.
All right. Next item on our agenda is 6.05 policy GBE. Staff conduct with student discussion. That would be Mr. Cameron and Mr. Zoll.
And so I'm gonna yield most of my time here to Mr. Stoll on this one, but just kind of want to let everybody know what we're doing with policy. So the first Wednesday of every month, the policy committee meets to look at policies. We started this review that's started to be 2 years in the making now, I guess, around 3.
It's been a while.
How time flies when you're doing policy. So one of the things we did was we put our policy together, so I'm part of that group, Mr. Bull, Ms. Brennan, Dr. Jeanette was not part of this one, but will be in the future.
Will be.
As depending on what policies we look at, who that involves, but it also involves Dr. Savage and Mr. Wright as well. And so we're doing a lot of the work together beforehand to lead into what the policies we're looking at that the rest of the board is seeing. So I know one of the major responsibilities of the Board of Education is policy. And so on this committee is obviously we only have two, can't have everybody there, but because then we'd be in a formal situation.
Right.
But we met and that will continue that. So what you're seeing at each board meeting is the work the policy committee is doing on when the first Wednesday of the month leading up to this. So I just want to let everybody know how that's kind of operating.
So the first one that you have in front of you is then, staff conduct with students, GBEBB. So there's a Senate Bill 291 that requires each school district, and charter school to adopt a policy regarding appropriate relationships between, school employees and students. So this is actually a model policy for the most part that the state sent us. We made a few tweaks and changes based on our language and then put some more information in there. But so this is the positive with it. More than likely, I mean, not more than likely, at the next public meeting, we do a second reading, there'll also be a regulation that goes with this in terms of how we respond to situations where there might be something inappropriate happening between a staff member and one of our students. I know it's a long policy. I think most of the states sometimes are. So this will be our model policy before this replaces the old GBEBB, which was, I think, 20 or 25 years. Any questions on GBEBB?
No, not for me. You good? Okay. All right, next, policy 6.06, policy GBL, staff awards and recognition discussion. And we have Ms. Britton.
Good evening. So this is a brand new policy. It came after having some discussions with my fellow business managers and based upon the fact that we're increasingly getting more and more audits. A lot of other districts across the state have something in place in terms of policy that you can point to in terms of employee recognition, whether that is a meal, a gift, a half moon, whatever it may be. So what we're hoping to do here is to put this into our policy, so it'll allow some flexibility within, the leadership, the administration, so that it's not prescriptive. It doesn't say every single, fall, we are gonna have a district breakfast kickoff, but it will provide us coverage in the event and when we have an audit that we are able to spend local district dollars for food, gifts, etc. What is the half moon? I was wondering what. Yeah, we can show you later.
Oh,
Because over the dinner, Cameron was wanting me to somehow incorporate the words half moon in here, but I opted not to.
Next item, 6.07, policy JJA, student travel discussion. That is Mr. Gold.
So,
person didn't know that was.
We just didn't ask about it.
It took you a second.
and so, our school district had two different policies for student travel and field trips. So we were trying to combine those into one. So the old field trip policy was IJOA. And there was an attached regulation, IJOA-R and IJOA-E, but in our estimation, looking at it, we wanted to kind of just combine it into one policy. So same thing, the policy JJ8 will now be our, hopefully, student travel and field trip policy. Much like the other one, when I come to the second reading, I'll have a regulation for you to look at as well that goes along with this. The only change to the actual policy that I needed to talk to you about was our sports teams are allowed to go 100 miles from here without board approval. But our field trips were not able to go out of state without board approval. So in our estimation, we just wanted to kind of make other people, so sports teams and field trip would be the same thing. And 100 miles basically is the Eastern Shore. So it goes down to Accomack, Virginia, kind of over towards the Bay Bridge. All that's pretty much been 100 miles. Wilmington, same thing, about 100 miles. So if they wanted to go to Philadelphia or Baltimore or DC, they still need their approval to do so. But if they're traveling anywhere kind of on this eastern shore, they can do that without their approval.
And we went this way with it, opposed to going the other way with it, so that we didn't have to approve every time a sports team in Salisbury,
Right,
you know.
correct.
Yeah, that's where I've been doing a lot. For babies.
Be like done in the meeting.
Any questions or thoughts on field trips?
No.
I'm sorry, I guess, the ROTC program, is it included in this as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the ROTC program is kind of in both. There, we treat their, the rifle team and the drill team kind of as sports because that's what they're doing, they're competing. And then when they're going to like Annapolis or something like that, and they're like a group that we do field trip with them.
Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is 7.201 school choice, and Jeff, you do not have any. for today. Next item on our agenda, 7.02 field trip. And fellow board members, you'll see that we have one, is for Central Elementary third grade students for November 20th. They are going to go to Capitol Hill in Washington DC for the day. Because students just recently learned about the Constitution of Congress, so they have the opportunity to review it firsthand. And that is an action item, and I would need a motion to approve.
Sarah Savage, I move to accept the field trip agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions or recusal? And that motion carries. The next item on our agenda is 7.03 facility request, and you'll see that we do have one, and it is the Boy Scouts. And it is the rental for October 26th, 2023, and you'll see they have outlined the setup time and the breakdown time. So we would need a motion to approve, just if there's no questions about it.
Definitely gonna make a motion to approve the facility request.
Marcus Rhoda, second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? And that motion carries. All right, next item on our agenda, 7.04. We have your SEA underscore 21005 underscore WSE underscore dash PLR change order request, and Mr. Henry, you get one for tonight.
So basically, this one is just a change order. We are closing out the project over at Westgate for the parking lot. And this is some of that funding that we had talked about, the authorized allowance. So it's basically just recouping that from the project PO. And then Ms. Brennan will be talking about it a little later on what we plan on doing with that money. It's enhanced minor cap. So we're planning on moving that over, trying to push it over to the Fred Douglass Road project over there. But she'll be speaking on that a little later. Is there any questions for me on that?
And this is an action item. And so I will need a motion to approve the change order request as presented.
Marcus Rhoda, move to approve. SEA underscore 21005 underscore West Secret Elementary dash PLR change order request as presented.
We have a motion and we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? And that motion carries. The next item on our agenda, 7.05 GB General Personnel Policies, and we do have Mr. Cameron for that.
So, Ms. Hubbard, this is the second reading. We talked about this at last month's meeting. We received no feedback from anybody from the public or anything, so we kept it the same. Just keeping in mind that upon revising this policy, we'll be looking to eliminate exhibit GB-E because the stuff that we were changing And what's in GBE just isn't how we do business anymore. And so and as we try to go through this policy review, we've tried to eliminate exhibits where they're not really needed. There's other places to do. So that would be upon your approval, we look to also eliminate GB-E.
All right, and this is also an action item, and I would need a motion to approve.
Item right, approved 7.5 GB general personnel policy.
Darren Savage, a second.
We have a motion and we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or refusals? And that motion carries. The next item on the agenda, 7.06. It is EBB, staff conduct with student policy. And this is an action item as well. We need a motion to approve the first reading.
Darren Savage, I approve the first, I move to approve the first reading of GBEB staff conduct of students as presented.
Jeffrey, second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or refusals? And that motion carries. The next item, 7.07 GBL Staff Awards and Recognition Policy as presented by Ms. Brennan earlier. The recommended action is to approve this first reading.
Jeffrey, I move to approve the first reading of GBL staff awards and recognition policy as presented.
Marcus Stratus, second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? And that motion carries. The next item on our agenda is 7.08 JJH Student Travel Policy as presented earlier by Mr. Zoll. If there is no further discussion on that, we need a motion to approve.
Marcus Stratus, to approve the first reading of JJH student travel policy as presented.
Darren Savage, a second.
We have a motion, we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstention or refusal? And that motion also carries. The next item, 7.09 voluntary school assessment board resolution, and we have Ms. Brennan.
Good evening again.
Back.
Good evening.
And I'm back. Last month, there was the presentation on the voluntary school assessment. What is before you today is a letter that will go to Sussex County tomorrow. All of the Sussex County school districts have a version of this that they are sending in support of moving forward with passing the DSAs for Sussex County.
So our fellow board members, the same letter that you see on the screen, we have in our folders, and if you're okay with it, you can send it with my signature to represent the board. Okay, that is an action item. So if there's no further discussion on it, I would need a motion to approve.
Darren Savage, I move to approve the voluntary school assessment board resolution as presented.
Jeffrey, second.
Have a motion, I have a second. Since there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention or recusals? And that motion carries.
And they've already started it in Georgetown, correct?
Okay.
They've already started.
Well, I think, yeah, so I think there's two different things going on. First of all, we have reassessment for property tax as a whole that is well underway. Sussex is behind some other counties. I know Kent County is changing their rates as of July 1st, 2024. But this specifically would be for the residential development.
Okay.
So this isn't for individual homeowners or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 7.10 nutrition service meal price revised, and I have Ms. Brennan down for that.
Yes, so there was one minor change. The reimbursement from USDA changed by 8 cents. So we are changing the adult breakfast from $3 to $3.05. But it needs board approval.
All right.
So just the dogs.
Just the adults, correct? Just the adults. It is free for students for breakfast and for lunch.
All right.
All right.
Jeff Benson, I make a motion to approve the nutrition services meal prices revised as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion, fellow board members?
No.
I'm not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstention or recusal? And that motion carries. Next item on our agenda, 7.11, revised House Bill 475, enhanced MCI improvement plan. And Ms. Brennan.
Yes. As Mr. Henry mentioned, we had approximately $43,000 extra after we finished the West Elementary parking lot project. That money, we are now hoping to move over to help with the Frederick Douglass, the paving and the road that will be restored and there. But in order for us to do that, to move the $43,000, we need board approval, and then this will go to the Controller General's office, the Office of Management and Budget, and the Department of Education.
And how long is that process?
Us sending it up there, so they will then just, I think, sign off on it. Normally, I would say a matter of maybe 2 to 3 weeks, if that. I mean, last time around, there wasn't a lot of pushback on and discussions on this project. I will tell you, we're in the process right now. We received the filter first money, and we are probably in our third back and forth reiteration with them. So it really depends on the project and maybe the people involved, whether or not you get an instant yes, or you have to kind of change and modify your original vision.
Okay. Well, why would they push back on you?
So they're pushing back because so for the most part, they're okay with our plan, which is we are replacing some of the water fill stations within the schools. We are using the backflow converters, and they're
I tried to push for our backflows to be included in that funding, because there is lead pipes associated with them. So anytime we're touching that or changing the lead pipes out,
Yeah.
those are very costly to change too. So, I just tried to grab some of that available funding
Yeah, yeah.
for that. But they kind of pushed back on us, so we revised, and basically what we're gonna look at now is, most of the fixtures in Julie's kitchens are 20+ years old. So we're gonna go in and replace, we're at and replace most of those
Okay.
to use that funding.
Fellow board member, do you have any more questions related to 7.11? No. All right, this is the action item, and I will need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve revised HB 475 enhanced MCI improvement plan.
Sarah said, Jeff second.
We have a motion and a second. Since there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? And that motion carries. Next item, 7.12, financial report. Ms. Brennan, you're on a roll.
So the first document you have in front of you is our operating unit expenses. We are 25% of the way through the calendar fiscal year. At this point, since the last meeting, we've expended or encumbered an additional $865,000, which puts us at 26.16 expended or encumbered. So we're really tracking in line with where our expenditure should be. The best, well, one of the best pieces of news, today we did receive our October taxes. So we have also received our senior property and disabled veterans tax credits. This month alone, we brought in $4.5 million. So we are at 91.74%. This puts us 3% higher than where we were at this point last year. So that's fabulous news. We are on track to definitely hit our 98%, which is the $6.061 million. So the next slide you have is our set aside. This has not changed. I did want to point out that this number is $3.1 million higher than it was 2 years ago. So we continue to add to our set aside. Finally, our September monthly revenue report. In state funds, the only change between the last meeting and this meeting was $98.29. This was for 12-hour driver training. So not really much going on in the top third of this. The local funds, we increased by $1.6 million. A lot of this was our current expense taxes coming in, and then that gets spread across the various categories. The other point too is that we had budgeted about $50,000 in terms of interest. We're already at $109,000 collected in interest to date, so that's positive. Finally, we did receive in a portion of our consolidated grant funds. We have not received them all in yet. I envision that we'll probably get in the next month or two, but DOE did preload some portion of that. The final piece of good news, in addition to receiving our taxes today, was we had our exit conference and our 2022 local audit had 0 findings.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. That is big. All right.
Well, that's it.
Fellow board members, this is an action item. The recommended action is to approve it if there is no further discussion. And I would need a motion.
Sarah Savage, I move to approve the financial report as presented.
Marcus Reyes.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? And that motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Vernon. Next item is number 8, long-range agenda. And you can see as it's posted up here on the board, all of the great things that we have going on in our district, from National School Bus Safety Week, Multicultural Night at Fred, Title I Family Fun Night at West, Fall Sports Family Night at the middle school. We have a fall harvest happening in Central, so maybe Dr. D will get us some apple cider. Then we have some other things. Presidency for Education nominations will close on October 27th. So if there's nominations that people still want to, if there are still people that folks want to nominate, just be on the lookout for that nomination closure date. They have a professional development day on 10:30. Then we have a community tailgate on 11/3. And Dr. D, where would that be at this year?
That is going to be behind the high school in the parking lot so that we can access the interior space if there's inclement weather, as well as the bathrooms. And it addresses parking and keeps folks over there rather than on this road in, on right, Market Street.
Yeah.
Because there's some concern about folks crossing over to go to the game and the cars double parked and yes.
Yeah, I think that was that.
So Mr. Zoll will be very happily or making all of those arrangements within the next month.
On these, they had fire prevention all this month. They did the fire prevention month.
Yes.
We had all the second graders from West Haver School. 110 students we did, and then we did 105 students in kindergarten at West Haver School. And then this tomorrow we have the Jade, and that's behind here. In the morning we have a group, and then in the afternoon we have a group.
Oh, that's
So-
wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you, Mr.
We
Wright.
stop, drop, and cover and roll.
And then
They put cover in there, and I know what that means.
and
They added that one on.
Yeah.
90s.
And then we have some, in November, we have, professional development day, which will close on the 9th of November, Veterans Day on 11/10, and then parent conferences, on 11/16, and then we'll meet back here on 11/20 at 6 p.m.
Crazy. November already.
Future of the year, it is when.
I'm sorry, this one's in Dover at the Modern Bridge Authority. So I have put in all of your RSVPs and your dinner requests. So we're looking forward to it. We're very optimistic that Ms. Diaz-Rios is going to be another Seaford winner. It's going to be very exciting.
All right, next item on our agenda is executive session, and we do need a motion to enter into executive session. We thank you all for being here in public session, but I do need a motion to go into the executive.
Marcus Reyes, second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, that makes it Dory. Thank you all. We will come back in public session in a little bit.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Make it a difference.
And